Yeah, not much to discuss here. I mean, it was a race.
Yep.
Max won comfortably.
Yep. Welcome to Delta Time Podcast. Today we're going to talk about the Belgian Grand Prix in Spa, where Max and Checo went to an easy 1-2 with Leclerc hitting podium, which is great for him. And other than that, not a whole lot going on in the midfield. You got some good passing from Williams, but other than that, it's just a pretty by-the-book race with your standard players that you would expect to be up in the top 5 or 10. All right, this week we got Michael back for Michael's race summary, and so here we go. Michael, take it away.
Hey, what's up? It's Michael there in Belgium. It's rainy over there. Turn one, Sainz locked up, tried to go into turn one. Oscar thought he saw a gap. There was no gap. They both collided. They both race ended. That's messed up. And then from then, it's pretty much just a fine race. The only interesting thing is Max and his race engineer going back and forth briefly.
So don't forget, Max, use your head, please.
Are we both doing it or what?
You just follow my instruction.
No, I want to know what both guys doing.
Max, please follow my instruction and trust it. Thank you.
But Max won comfortably, though he's going to be pissed off because Lewis won fastest lap. I guess like the main interesting things are literally. I'm trying to find the clips. I haven't seen it again. I did see that Carlos locked up into turn one right off the start. And it seemed like Oscar saw that. This is my uneducated opinion.
Yeah.
My theory is that Oscar saw that. It's like, all right, I got a gap, let's go. And then Sainz panicked, closed the door on him. And Oscar didn't pull out, and then they both took damage. So
yeah, that's kind of
I'm trying to find a clip, though.
That was kind of my thought on the whole thing, too. Because it seemed like, because Oscar on the radio is like, he just didn't give me any room, and it's kind of like, one of the commentators was like, well, you can't just go in with a nose. Like he didn't have the position when he went into the corner. So if you really want to get into it, like Oscar was technically in the wrong place at the wrong time. But yeah, it was your standard launch that you run into even in like e-racing, right? Or like your own kind of iRacing, as soon as you get to that first turn, like that's where everything slows down, and either you hit
that's where the chaos is.
You either hit someone, or you lose position, or you somehow make it through without any.
Or like maybe he just smiles upon you when you get through without getting hit.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm looking at the clip right now. Sainz is coming up behind Lewis on turn one. It seemed like Lewis broke earlier than he thought he would.
Yeah.
So Sainz locked to try not to hit Lewis. Mm-hmm. And then he veers out of the way behind Lewis to avoid a contact. It seems like had he not veered out of the way, he would have hit Lewis in the back.
Yep. Yeah.
He kind of gets in the way of Oscar a little bit. But he definitely locks up. Yeah. Oscar thinks there's a gap there, and Sainz just closed the door immediately.
Yep. Yeah. No, 100%.
And Oscar doesn't back off.
No.
Though if he backs off, I think Lando hits him. So it's a clusterfuck.
Somebody gets damage in that situation. Yes. I think that's the long and short of it is like no matter what, like in that kind of cluster at the beginning of a race like that, like someone's rolling away with damage, and unfortunately it was Sainz to the point where he had to retire. So that was a bummer.
Upon further review, I think it's Oscar's fault.
Really?
I think it's Oscar's fault because looking at this clip. I'm not gonna say Carlos didn't squeeze him because Carlos did, but like there's nowhere for Oscar to go,
right?
And he should realize that.
So that was my kind of thing, because really the damage that Oscar takes isn't from Sainz, it's from the wall, because he goes too much into he basically scrubs the wall as he gets pinched by Sainz. At least that's what I saw.
Yeah, and here's like and there's a point of no return where Oscar's tires are locked up with Sainz. Mm-hmm. So if he breaks, Sainz is getting TT bone. Yep. Regardless.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's just racers being racers. It's a racing incident.
Yeah, no.
It is what it is. It happens.
100%. And it was it made me laugh a little bit just because it's just that standard, driver situation of like, oh, what the heck? He didn't leave me any space, and you're just like. If you're listening to their radio, it's obvious like it's a drive-by of unreasonable proportions, and then you really look at it.
No, in the moment you're like, what the fuck? What the fuck's this problem? What the fuck was that? You look at it again, you're like, right, you look at it again, you're like, Okay.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, I probably should have. Okay. Yeah, I probably should have backed out of that.
Exactly.
And that was literally the most interesting part of the race. So
It was
yeah.
honestly it was, but I mean it was crazy too. It looked like Hamilton was going to give Verstappen a little bit more trouble than he did. I mean, unfortunately, as soon as you're like, oh, maybe he'll get held up for a few laps or something like that, he just like weaves through him like Swiss cheese, and you're just like, all right, well, fuck, here we go.
Yeah. I remember I was looking around and I was like, oh, Max is 1.8 behind Lewis. Okay. Well, all right.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Or like Lewis has DRS with Leclerc. Okay, good. That gives him a chance. Nope, it doesn't. Like as soon as he loses it, it's like it's over. So yeah, and then like I thought there was gonna be somewhat of a fight with him and Checo, and just like knees up to Checo, and he just passed Checo. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, anyway,
I think Checo literally went off the racing line, let him pass it. Which, to be fair,
I mean,
that's what he should be doing.
at this point, yeah. Come on, he can't get in
You're
the
like
way.
it's like your number one driver is leading the constructors race by himself.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not racing him. There's those team orders now.
Yeah, exactly.
There was a window where you could race him. That window's closed.
Yeah, and to your own doing too. Like that's
and it's your fault.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it was cool. I mean, Albon is still freaking
amazing,
rolling like always. So I mean,
Crofty was kind of stroking that Williams a little bit, but
what was that?
Like Williams showed up with a really small wing. And Crofty was like, as soon as he gets to the straight, man, we're gonna power up a rocket ship, and he just couldn't pass, and he couldn't pass Gasly.
Yeah.
So
yeah, no, yeah.
But it's whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fortunate thing is Piastri retired before lap 1 ended. Sainz retired from damage after lap 27 or 28, something like that.
Yeah.
And then from there, it was follow the leader.
Well,
and then the race was over.
Well, it was just fun.
Oh, Red Bull won too, though.
Yeah,
so
Red Bull won too. Good for them. But I mean, it was also it was, I don't know about you, but it just seems like we almost went back to form. Like this weekend was more like we've been seeing the beginning of the year. You know, you've got Red Bull, Ferrari, Mercedes up there, Aston Martin, and then McLaren like trickling in. Like it's just so weird because you had Norris up in the top 2 the last 2 weeks, and then all of a sudden McLaren's back down where they were. Stroll is being Stroll. Oh my God, that guy.
He did all right though.
He did all right, but I'm just saying like his technique is just abysmal.
His raycraft is aggravating.
Yeah, it's just so frustrating to watch him. And then like
for a man whose entire job is racing a race car, it doesn't seem that good at it.
No, and just to watch Ocon pass him without any kind of effort whatsoever in an Alpine, like it's just, and then the other Aston Martin's up in 5th place, like it's nuts. Like he still gets points, which is good, I guess. And speaking of points, good on Tsunoda. I don't know if he ended up getting driver of the day, but he definitely
no,
deserved
it went to Max.
Oh, come on. Like
it's defensible. It's defensible. What he's doing is ridiculous.
It is and it isn't, though.
There's an argument that he's driver of the day every single race.
Like the car is so good.
I know, okay, let's be honest. It's just boring.
Yeah.
It's a boring driver of the day pick.
Kind of, yeah.
It's a boring, safe, justifiable, boring driver of the day pick.
It's a bunch of, I don't want to say noobs, but I would say like enthusiasts that are just like, look at him pass. Oh my God, that's amazing.
Which, to be fair, kind of is.
It is and it isn't.
It is.
It is. But like, I should send you this clip. I'll put it in the video. But there was a tweet that I saw yesterday, and it was like Max gets five grid penalty, 5 grid place penalty, and then it was like Max on race day. And what it is I think it's a sim race where like you have F1 cars on the track and someone's in like a hypercar, so they're literally like
funny.
Like as soon as they get into a straight, they just like go and just like pass like 8 cars at once.
It's funny, like in the straight, and like the entire race line pulls off the racing line to let him pass.
Basically, well, it's not even that, he's weaving in and out of the cars like as they're at like top speed.
It's like multi-class Le Mans or some shit.
Yeah, exactly.
So top 10: Max, Checo, Charles, Lewis, Nando, George, Lando, Ocon, Stroll, Yuki on the points.
Yep.
Yuki finishing 10, Danny Rick finishing 16. I feel vindicated here.
Yeah, I bet you
like
do.
people are acting like I understand that Danny Rick's very likable. I understand doing a shoey is silly and it's funny.
Yeah.
But I maintain is like, if he was that good, he would have had a seat beginning of the season.
Yeah.
People are acting like, no, he's just resting and he's gonna get in the Alpha Tower. He's gonna show people who's boss. Show them who Danny Rick is. It's like, nah, man, Yuki's that dude.
Yeah.
Yuki's that dude, and I'm not sure Danny Rick's that dude anymore. Mm-hmm. And he finished 6 places behind Yuki in the same car. Like, he put the worst car on the grid in the points, which is not fucking nothing.
Yeah.
And in fact, that's fucking a lot. So.
Yeah.
So.
It is impressive.
So,
and I mean,
big ups to him.
And I agree. I mean, I wasn't thinking that Danny Rick was going to come in and take over, change anything completely. I just wasn't surprised to see him perform as well as he did right out the gate, because that was the thing, is he unfortunately was a part of McLaren when they were at their worst of recent times, and it's just now that they're starting to figure things out, and that's after headhunting some engineers from better race teams and developing their factory to an exponential level, and
at their worst is strong, because he did get them a win. You don't look into a win very often.
Okay, fair. When I say worst, I mean like the last 5 years. Like, it just they were doing well when they were in the turbo hybrid before the new body style, and like they were competing for wins, and then as soon as that happened, they completely went to shit. And so like that's where I'm like, the worst time for Daniel Ricciardo to move again from Renault to McLaren was at that time. If he was coming into McLaren right now like Oscar Piastri was, I think we would have seen a different result.
Agreed.
So
Danny Rick's claim to fame is like being a famous late breaker, right?
Yeah.
But in my mind, and maybe it's because I'm a critical asshole, his claim to fame is running for Max Verstappen.
Running from Max, yeah. No, I can see that. I can fully see that. I mean, and it definitely seems like that was what it was, unfortunately. I mean, I'd like to say it was something else, but it definitely appeared that as soon as Young Buck came in and was a threat, he, packed up his stuff.
And that seemed to me like that's insecurity that's a little hard to wipe off to me when it comes to racing.
Yeah. No.
It should have been like, no. Like, fuck that. I'm better than him, and I'll prove that. And if I fuck up, if I fail, I fail.
Yeah.
But it seemed like he ran from the grind there.
Yeah.
So, but it is what it is.
Yeah. No, I agree.
So yeah, that's nothing.
What'd you think about Haas?
It's nothing. I never think about Haas. Let's see. Haas finished terribly. I'm not sure what happened to their race. I'm not sure if their car is bad. I'm not sure if they have infighting. I'm not sure if someone told someone to suck their balls again. I don't know what's going on there.
No, it was just weird. Hulkenberg looked like he was doing well, and then it just kind of fell off. Magnussen ended up finishing up further in the standings. No points there at all, but it still wasn't anything.
I mean, 15th on an 18 car grid. So
yeah, well, I was just surprised that Hulkenberg's down in 18. Like that was my thing. They've been performing better than that, and then same with Alfa Romeo. It was just like night and day from last week too. Like they all seemed super competitive, and then this week came around and there wasn't much to be seen.
I mean, I guess it reinforces like there are cars that perform better. Like there are strengths and weaknesses when it comes to tracks, when it comes to some of these cars.
Yeah.
Like we saw with Bahrain, Aston Martin was on it, and now Aston Martin is comfortably the 4th best team on the grid, which is still better than the 9th last year. But
what do you think is
not number 2 or 3?
What do you think is going on with Aston Martin? Like, why do you think that they're having this stall?
If I were to blindly guess, I'm going to guess that they do not have the infrastructure to manufacture upgrades at the same frequency like a Ferrari, Mercedes, or a Red Bull can, or McLaren for that matter. I'm going to guess that's the reason. Like they just can't get upgrades as quickly as the other teams can because they don't have those kind of factories up and running full capacity yet.
Yeah,
that's my guess. I could be completely wrong, but that's my uneducated opinion.
So, do you think that they developed in the wrong direction at all, or do you think that?
No, like I said, they went from the 9th worst team to the 4th best team. So I think they're doing pretty good overall.
Right.
I just think
I was just gonna say, but don't you think that that's when you see the most improvement is when you're like having that initial bump, and then after that, like if you start to stall out, that might be an indicator that maybe you're not going in the right direction.
Potentially, but I feel like when it comes to F1, it's like you have to celebrate the small victories.
True.
And Aston Martin being in the points and being expected to be in the points each race is an improvement to last year, and that's perfect. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
If it's still the case next year, you can start pointing, not pointing, but you can start asking some questions. But
Yeah.
I think as a whole, this like as long as they're in the top 10, this season is a complete win for them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No, that makes total sense.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just definitely, I mean, Mercedes still is, I mean, they're just hanging around. It doesn't seem like they're doing much of anything. They just seem to be staying in their fourth.
I mean, comfortably second best team on the grid. Maybe not the second fastest car.
Yeah, that's true.
Second best team
yeah,
on the
second
grid.
best team, that's for sure. That's the craziest part is as poor as they seem to be performing this year, they still seem to be right up there in the
Lewis,
points and everything, like with everyone else.
Yeah, Lewis finished fourth, still putting on some amazing drives. If his car was a little more competitive, he'd be giving max fits.
Yeah.
Absolute fits.
Yeah.
But that's not this year.
Yeah.
So
Well, I mean, the crazy part was, and we got to get into your breakdown so we can have that on. But
sure.
one of the things that I thought was crazy and has been crazy is the qualifying. I mean, we've been experiencing the best qualifying in the last 3 weeks than we have, I don't know, since I've been really watching Formula One. Like the idea of a damp track and everything, like to have to deal with, it just seems like such a cool concept. And like the more that this has been happening, the more I feel like the concept of I don't know if you've heard about this, but the sprinklers, like actually having sprinklers on the course that they like legitimately wet down the track, you know?
That is like a DLC thing you can do in Motorsport Manager that I saw in one of the trailers.
Oh, really?
Which is funny, but the thing is, like, at what point does it become a gimmick? And at which point do you lose the spirit of racing?
True.
Of like let Mother Nature decide that stuff.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
That's kind of where I fall. Let's assume it's a dry track, and if Mother Nature changes that, then you adjust. But I feel like sprinkling the track during a regular race season is kind of gimmicky. If you want to do it for some kind of, since I have zero reference for sprints, I'm okay with doing it that.
Okay.
I don't care about sprints at all.
Yeah.
During the Grand Prix, I don't want gimmicks like that.
Yeah.
If we can avoid it, because I feel like then when do you stop?
Yeah. Well, yeah, because the whole thing is you're working on a rubbered-in track. Like you're banking on the track being as sticky as possible, and anytime it rains, it's almost like a disappointment for a racer, you know, because you basically have to start at square one. So I'm in agreement with you. I would
disagree because I feel like rain in some cases levels the playing field because it's more about drivability than just pure car power.
True. What I mean is if it's not going to like they want it to rain. Like I'm saying like when it rains like the night before and then you just have like a green track. Drivers don't like a green track. Like they definitely want rain for that equalizer for sure. Like a rainy day is awesome because that actually makes the pit stop concepts be different and strategies be different, all that jazz. But what I mean is like when you have like FP1 and then between FP1 and FP2 it rains overnight, like that's literally the worst thing that they could have happen from a standpoint of like being able to understand their numbers and everything. So
true.
So yeah,
but I kind of like that because in my mind, in my mind, and this is the case I think with most fields, it's like the people who are able to adapt the best and quickest are the most effective.
Yeah.
So like, is it ideal? No, but you adapt to it and you adjust. And if you adjust better than everybody else, then that's an advantage to you.
Yeah.
So I kind of like that. I like that kind of chaos because it shows who is quick on their feet, who's planned ahead, who's thought through this shit, and who hasn't.
Yeah.
And it shows it shows who's better.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. In that vein, what about, so we're just gonna kind of go into the whole qualifying concepts real quick. So within that same vein, what are your thoughts on the whole specific tire compound in qualifying where Q1 is hard, Q2 is medium, and Q1 is hard, Q2 is medium, and Q3 is soft.
Love it.
You like that?
Love it. And I love it because it forces each team and each driver to become familiar with each compound and become effective with each compound. It rewards the most well-rounded team. Straight up. It's like they can't just focus on softs the whole time. They have to be able to get the hards up to temperature and have that ability, and they can do it. They get exposed. That's part of being a driver. So to me, it tests drivers in a way that shows how effective they are across multiple circumstances.
Yeah.
Which to me is true racing.
Yeah.
So I love it.
I
absolutely adore it.
I fully agree. I think it was a really cool concept. I really liked it when it happened, and when you see something like Max almost get knocked out in Q1, like that definitely is something that's effective, and like I think that's a real equalizer that can really shuffle the grid, because I think that's the key to having like even a halfway decent or entertaining race is to have a grid that have people out of position, you know.
And I think I think the most well-rounded driver should win, and a driver of that caliber should be able to get heat into hards and keep heat into mediums, and then not run soft into the ground. Yeah. So yeah.
No, 100%. I couldn't agree with you more. It's definitely. I mean, I'm hoping that it becomes a real thing, because it's one of those few concepts that I'm like, oh, you could do this every weekend and I would be okay with it.
And they should.
And I think they should as well. I'm hoping that they will. Because it's just like, I don't care about the sprint. I don't care. I try every time to just be like, what's the silver lining? Like, it doesn't even justify itself anymore. At least before, when we like the winner or however you placed in the sprint determined how you started in the Grand Prix, which I hated, but at least the logic made sense. Now it's literally like its own thing in a bubble that like happens, and then you do the Grand Prix, which like that's
and just do it again.
Yeah,
you just do it again.
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't like.
Oh, it makes sense because it's like, do you think people will spend tickets to see the sprint race? Oh, they will. Oh, let's do more of them.
Do you think so though? I don't know if people going to the actual track are excited to see the sprint. You know, I don't know. I'd be interested to find out.
I don't care if FIA cares about excitement. I think they care about revenues. So that's again to come back down to revenues at the end of the day. That's my mentality. That's my rationale when it comes to sprints. It's like, let's see if we can sell more tickets and sell more TV time. That's what I think that comes down to.
I know. I know that in my heart that's what it is, but it's still at times just like, damn it, I just wish that wasn't the case.
No, it's silly, and that's why I don't watch it.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, no, it's definitely and I mean, well, it'll adjust, and it'll be interesting, especially when they start getting to the place where you can't have any kind of tire blankets. Like once we're there too, I think that concept of different tires every qualifying round will it even be even more what do you call it, impactful.
Well, then it's going to bring more attention on Pirelli and what actually they're doing.
Yeah. Because
then it might require them to change how they make the rubber to make them easier to manage tire temperatures at that point. So.
Well, yeah, and they made that change already, and they've got drivers complaining and claiming that's partly what Alonso claims is where Aston Martin's performance has fallen off, is because the tire compound change. And there's a couple that agree, but there's also, ones that don't, because, I get that too.
But also tire temperature is a mix of both driver skill, and also that's a mix of like car development.
Yeah.
Some cars chew through tires more than others, so that's why it's a team sport.
Yep.
So.
We had Alex Albon doing a lot of unnecessary passes. I mean, it looked really good on screen, but it amounted to ultimately nothing. But
I think he was 14th. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, it was not as exciting as we might have hoped it would be, but it was just one of those weekends where qualifying was the most exciting part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it was a fine race. It was a fine race. It was what it is. Red Bull got 1-2. They're happy. They will again sleepwalk through the rest of this season. We're going into summer break, which means I think not until late August where they're going to be. Where are they going? They are going
Zandvoort, I think.
Zandvoort, maybe. Let me see. Correct, Zandvoort. So nice. We won't be able to see shit because there'll be too much fucking orange smoke.
I don't know, man. I'm pretty sure that they put the kibosh on that, because there have been some tracks already this year that we would have already seen that kind of stuff, and because
it worked so well at Austria, right?
Yeah, yeah. because Austria, we
People-
should have seen it in Austria, and we should
people-
have seen it in
people sneaking
Hungary.
people sneaking orange flares up their butthole. Yeah,
Dude,
keep them from security. Yeah,
it's wild. Like, I mean, I get it to an extent, but at the same time, like, Jesus Christ, man, like, it just,
it's like can you guys survive just 2 hours without
just
orange
don't
flares?
pop a
just
flare.
2
Like,
hours.
Jesus Christ. Definitely don't throw it on the course like that last year. Like, oh man,
Yeah,
that's
I mean-
the thing that pissed me off the most. Like, it's one thing to be like, it's smoky out here because like whatever, like that's just kind of cool
Right.
because there's that many people doing it. But when you start throwing the flare onto the track, like that's a whole nother freaking
Drunk
deal.
morons who've been fucking pre-gaming since like 4 a.m.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the frustrating part is they ruin it for
Who
everybody.
have fucking gotten drunk, thrown up, sobered up, got drunk again before the race even began.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rallied, all that jazz. Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah, ruining it for everybody else.
Speaking of dumpster fires, what the fuck is going on with Alpine?
I don't know their history that well. It seems like they have a history of making knee-jerk changes with no rhyme or reason,
Yeah.
and it seems like this is one of those. Though, I read that it wasn't justified because the person who owns Alpine is a fuck. That's what I'm reading. I can't confirm that or not.
Oh yeah.
But at the same time, I don't like Gottmer.
Yeah.
After last year, so
Yeah.
because he was being, let's be honest, he was being a whiny little bitch because they disrespected Alonso and gave him a car that broke half the time, and then jerked around Oscar and not giving him a seat. And he was like, "Well, I'll find who else wants to give me a seat."
Yeah.
And they wanted him to be loyal to them just because they paid for his junior career, which is not nothing, but to do that and then be like,
yeah.
you get there when you get there.
Yeah.
For a dude who ran through every single league you can up to this point was disrespectful.
Yeah. No, I agree.
And they thought because he was young, he's supposed to sit there and fucking take it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's fucking not okay.
Yeah.
And he proved that.
Yeah.
So
It's a very
I would say
Oh, go ahead.
yeah,
No, go ahead.
I would say my sympathy is very, very, very low
Yeah.
in that regard.
Same. I'm more just annoyed by the fact that like Alpine / Racing Point has been able to like stay with the ownership that they have as long as they have. Just because I don't think he knows what he's doing. I mean, prior to that, they basically were like one of the most crooked teams in F1 history. I mean, they literally have a Netflix documentary about the previous owner of Racing Point and how basically he like went to jail for embezzlement and all this kind of crazy stuff that wasn't uncommon in F1 back in the day before you started to formalize with like the cost caps and all that kind of stuff. So, but anyways, I always had kind of an issue with it, but I kind of had a soft spot for them because of their competition with McLaren, and Otmar at least would tend to put Zach in his place whenever he would start popping off without knowing what the fuck he was talking about. But yeah, same thing after last year. I just had really no sympathy for him because it's like it was literally a microcosm what they did with Oscar that happens with a lot of young business professionals nowadays. Is just you have these veterans that think that they can get something for nothing, and as soon as you become privy to the fact that you're being taken advantage of, they're just like, "Oh, you ungrateful! You're so ungrateful!
It's like
screw you!
What happened to loyalty?
Yeah, loyalty.
What happened to
Get
loyalty?
out of here! Where's your loyalty? Like, if
It's like fuck right off. Go fuck yourself.
like if someone better than Oscar came around, like Alpine wouldn't have thought twice to like take them over him. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like,
They would have left him out on the side with the fucking recycling.
yeah, Otmar was pissed because he was a principal without a driver, and like he basically was made to look stupid. And ultimately, this is why he got fired. Was he was made to look like a clown, and then continued to look like a clown and not just take the L. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's like you remember like they tried to fucking trash his name.
Yeah.
Around the paddock last year.
Yeah.
And how confidently they were wrong.
Yeah.
We're like, no, he belongs to us. You have a contract. And it's like,
Yeah.
actually, no, you didn't.
Yeah,
If
this
you'd been
is-
paying attention, you would have known that.
This is not slave trade, my guy. You do not own anyone. Like you get a benefit of the doubt, or like you get extra, perks because you helped him, maybe. But if you're not showing him the kind of respect he deserves, like he doesn't owe you shit.
Yeah. Had they played it the way they should have fucking played it, is after he tweeted, I'm not racing for Alpine. And then someone asks Alpine, what do you say? What do you think? He should have said, oh, we have no comment at this time. That should have been it.
Yeah.
It should have been it. But he was like, we're disappointed because Oscar, we thought he had more loyalty, yada, 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 bullshit. So,
Yeah. No, I'm not.
so
no
I
one's
don't, so
interested
I'm
in
not
that.
that sympathetic about what happened to him in
Yeah.
the grand scheme of things. And also, he'll be all right.
Yeah.
He'll be all right. He's, yeah, so whatever.
Failing up is a thing. It's always going to be
Yeah.
a thing. And especially when you get to that level, like there's no.
Especially in an all boys club, like a boys club that's becoming less of a boys club, but
True.
still that has that boys club mentality with F1.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I mean, at the very least, it'll be like, Steve Sarkisian type situation is if they become a big enough problem, you just put them up in a booth to where you don't see them on camera. And then they're still there. They're still collecting their paycheck, but you just don't see them, Like, oh, don't worry about that alcoholic over there. He's just, he's just calling plays for us now. Like, no big deal.
No, his headset he's been connected. He just thinks talking to somebody else. Don't worry about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm seeing a post here that Joe, Tsunoda, Magnussen, Sargent, and Ricciardo have now been eliminated from championship contention.
That's unfortunate. Shocking.
Yes.
Who would have thought?
I know. Hot take there. And then more important news during the race, Rocket Pard Mohawk put out a video. He took down the portrait of King Jong-un and put up a portrait of George W. Bush.
Oh my God. Did he really?
He said he has to, quote unquote, rotate the dictators. So that's pretty funny. And then he put his dog in the tub. And he said, "What do you think about the?" And he interviewed his dog.
I love that. I'm just disappointed he's not in the MG anymore. Like I get it. You got to upgrade. I'm sure he's like in a new place now. Like, but
let's be honest. I was gonna say, is this new place? I was gonna say it's probably really hot in there.
Yeah,
my guess.
Probably. Yeah.
Probably just cooler. Probably cooler in his little nerve center.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. No, I'm gonna have to watch that. I watched the McLaren one. Did you watch the McLaren one?
Oh yeah, no, he's beautiful work. Beautiful work. Hey,
so
oi, dickhead is pissing down anything about inters. And again, I go back to I talked to you about Lando.
Yeah.
We'll see if Lando can handle that pressure because he always seems a little too frantic. I'm only saying that because there's nothing else to discuss race wise.
Yeah. No.
That's literal. There's nothing else to discuss race wise. So let's have some clickbait.
Yeah.
So.
No, I mean, I agree. Like, that's the crazy part is I didn't even think about it until you mentioned it on the chat. But you're 100% right. There is an aspect of every time he's on the radio with his engineer, there always just seems like a sense of urgency almost. And the only times he sounds chill is when it's it's a win or something like that, or they give him news you're P2 or you qualified P1 or whatever. He's like, oh really? That's cool. No, that's awesome. And you're like, wait. Every time they ask you about a decision that needs to be made, should we go to inters or wets, and you say shut up and you slide off the course, you don't really seem like your head's fully in the race,
As it's literally raining down around you.
Yeah.
That was the weird thing about it.
Yeah.
But again, that was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So no point of holding him to hold his feet to
No,
the fire.
definitely not. But I mean, there's just a definite difference between his conversations with his engineer versus someone like Sainz, where Sainz is literally telling his engineer no or telling him what to do, but doing it in such a way that you don't get a poor response from the engineer. Whereas Max is telling his engineer he's a fucking idiot, and then his engineer comes back and is like, no, actually you're an idiot. So if you want to do it that way, we can do it that way.
Yeah, which is good. I
love it.
Just
Yeah.
good. I like that.
100%. I'm all about that kind of relationship. So if I if I had
As long as
your
your foundation of respect is there, then yes.
Exactly. And that's
with
the thing.
Signs, it's he's fed the fuck up. It's not quite the same thing.
Yeah, no, it's not. But that's why
There's no respect there. There's no respect when it comes to Signs.
Well, that's what I mean. That's why I made the comparison of Sainz and Lando versus Verstappen, because Verstappen and his engineer is just a definite unique situation, and it's definitely knowing each other. Because I mean, the fact that Max literally comes on after Q3 and apologizes to him on the radio too, that's a good sign. You know what I mean? That's a good thing. Granted, you shouldn't be doing that, but yeah.
True. And you have Lewis and Bono. Lewis is up and down, and Bono's always even, no matter what.
Bono is fantastic. That's one thing that even when I wasn't a huge fan of Mercedes dominance and stuff, nothing is more fun to hear than Bono come over the radio and just have Lewis have some sort of crazy frustration, and then Bono be like, "Understood. We're looking into it."
Yeah, no, it was all right, head down, let's go. Yeah.
We understand, Lewis. Keep going.
Yeah. So.
Anyways, I mean, it was a good race. It was It was definitely a good one to end on for summer break for Red Bull with a 1-2. Leclerc getting in there, getting on the podium at 3. I think that's good for Ferrari.
I'm happy for him.
Yeah.
I want to be happy.
Yeah,
he deserves so much better.
especially with the extension. Like, I mean, looming. Like, I want him to stay there, but I only want him to stay there if they're going to be competitive.
Right. It's like if they're just going to be like the same fuck as they were last year, I don't want him. I don't want him there.
Yeah.
And they seem similar fuckheads to they were last year.
Yeah.
So I'm still concerned about that.
Yeah, it's definitely obvious that Matteo was not the problem. Like, Binotto is not the issue, and like it's becoming more and more apparent. It's the people underneath, which may have still been his fault because he hired them or had a hand in it, but still there's an aspect of the strategy and the engineering team is just not to where it should be for Ferrari.
Correct.
But we'll see what happens. I know not a whole lot's going to change between now and the next race because it's summer break, so they shouldn't be necessarily working. But until then, we'll have some overtimes. Maybe Steve and I can course you on a couple. Michael, we'll talk about some MotoGP or something.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, learn about different tire compounds on a per tire basis.
Yeah, I like it. But until then, everyone else, thanks as always. Like, subscribe, give us a comment, let us know what we can do better, what we're wrong on. We always appreciate that. So until next time, peace.